America is on edge once again, and Donald Trump just dropped a bombshell. In a fiery speech, he hinted at something the U.S. hasn't seen in decades: the possible return of the Insurrection Act. Could Trump really use the military on American soil against American citizens? This isn't just politics anymore. This could change everything. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might redefine the future of U.S. democracy. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video, and don't forget to comment your thoughts below, because today we're diving deep into a story that's sending shockwaves across America. Donald Trump, the Insurrection Act, and the question everyone's afraid to ask: is the U.S. military coming to its own cities? Let's get right into it. The tension in America is building once again, and this time, the spotlight is on Donald Trump and something many hoped would never be revisited: the Insurrection Act. Recent remarks from Trump have sparked waves of speculation across political circles, media outlets, and within the general public. The question is simple yet deeply unsettling. Could Trump really bring back the Insurrection Act to deploy the U.S. military on American soil? To understand why this moment matters, we have to rewind. The Insurrection Act, first passed in 1807, gives the president the authority to deploy federal troops within the United States to restore order during civil unrest, rebellion, or insurrection. It's one of those powers that's rarely used because it treads dangerously close to the line between democracy and military rule. But now, Trump's words are bringing that old law back into focus, and people are paying attention. During a recent campaign speech, Trump hinted that if chaos continues in American cities, he would not hesitate to use the power of the presidency to restore law and order. To some, that sounded like a direct reference to the Insurrection Act. His tone was confident, almost defiant, and his supporters cheered. But behind the applause, analysts and critics began dissecting what this really means for the future of American democracy. Back in 2020, Trump reportedly considered invoking the Insurrection Act amid the nationwide protests after the killing of George Floyd. Military leaders at the time, including then Defense Secretary Mark Esper, strongly opposed the idea, arguing that the U.S. military should not be used against its own people. But now, in 2025, as Trump hints at a potential second term, he's clearly not shying away from revisiting that power. The political climate in the U.S. is more divided than ever. Many major cities have seen protests, political clashes, and spikes in violent crime. Trump has repeatedly framed these events as signs of Democrat-run chaos, and that language resonates with his base. He's painting a picture where he's the only one strong enough to restore order. For millions of his supporters, that's a promise. For others, it's a warning. But here's what's truly significant. The Insurrection Act doesn't just give the president symbolic authority, it gives him real, sweeping power. Under the Act, he can deploy the National Guard or even active duty troops without state approval. That means local governors or mayors who disagree could be bypassed entirely. It's a drastic step one that could change the balance between federal and state authority overnight. Legal experts are divided. Some argue that using the Insurrection Act could be justified in extreme cases of violence or national emergency. Others warn that it could open the door to authoritarian abuse. As one former Pentagon official put it, once you normalize the idea of using the military to control domestic unrest, it's very hard to turn back. Trump's critics see his recent statements as more than political bluster. They believe it's part of a larger narrative, a test to see how far he can push public opinion before taking unprecedented action. His supporters, on the other hand, say he's simply being strong where current leaders are weak. They argue that restoring law and order is a priority, and that the media is blowing his comments out of proportion. Meanwhile, Democrats in Congress have already started raising concerns. Some are calling for reforms to limit the president's ability to invoke the Insurrection Act without congressional oversight. They argue that no single person should have the unilateral power to send troops into American streets. But getting such reforms passed in a polarized Congress won't be easy, especially if Trump continues to dominate the political conversation. And then there's the military itself. Historically, military leaders have been deeply cautious about being used for domestic law enforcement. The Posse Comitatus Act, another old law, explicitly restricts the military from acting as police within the United States. But the Insurrection Act is the loophole. It allows the president to override that restriction under certain conditions. In practice, that means if Trump or any president invokes it, there's very little anyone can do to stop them in the short term. Public reaction to Trump's hints has been mixed. Some conservative commentators on TV have praised him for speaking tough and showing leadership. Others have warned that the mere suggestion of using the military internally sends a dangerous signal, one that could escalate tensions instead of calming them. The memory of January 6th still lingers in the minds of millions of Americans. Many fear that combining Trump's fiery rhetoric with military authority could be a volatile mix. But Trump seems unfazed. His strategy, as always, is to stay on the offensive. Every time critics accuse him of being authoritarian, he doubles down, claiming he's simply protecting the nation from chaos. He's betting that fear of crime, fear of unrest, fear of decline will be more powerful than the fear of him. And for a significant portion of the electorate, that message hits home. The media coverage has been relentless. Pundits are dissecting every phrase, every gesture, every rally soundbite. They know that Trump's words aren't random, they're strategic. By floating the idea of using the Insurrection Act, he's signaling strength, setting a tone for his campaign, and testing how the public and the establishment react. It's political chess, and Trump is a player who loves the game. As we move closer to the 2025 elections, this issue could become a defining one. Is Trump truly prepared to use the military in American cities, or is it all part of his political theater designed to project dominance and toughness? The answer might depend not just on Trump himself, but on how much unrest the country experiences in the coming months. Because the more unstable things appear, the easier it becomes to justify extraordinary measures. As the nation watches Trump's every move, political insiders are quietly preparing for what could be one of the most divisive chapters in modern American history. The Insurrection Act isn't just another policy tool. It's a symbol of the delicate balance between freedom and control, democracy and authority. And if Trump truly intends to use it, the implications could ripple far beyond politics, right into the soul of the country itself. In his latest interviews, Trump hasn't shied away from doubling down. When asked whether he would use military force to deal with what he calls lawless cities, his response was sharp. If the government won't protect its people, then the military will. That single sentence sent shockwaves through Washington. To his supporters, it sounded like strength. To his critics, it was a chilling warning, a sign that the next administration might blur the lines between civilian authority and military might. Across social media, the debate exploded. Hashtags like Insurrection Act and Trump 2025 began trending overnight. Political commentators argued on live TV, analysts published think pieces, and ordinary Americans took sides, some calling it a necessary step for order, others calling it the beginning of authoritarianism. But beneath the noise, one question kept echoing. If the streets erupt again, would Trump actually do it? Historically, presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act sparingly. Dwight Eisenhower used it to enforce school desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957. John F. Kennedy used it to protect civil rights activists in the early 1960s. But those were moments of moral clarity, federal troops sent to uphold justice and equality. Using it to suppress political unrest or urban crime would be an entirely different story. It would mark the first time in modern U.S. history that the military was turned inward for reasons of domestic law and order. And that's what worries many historians. The Founding Fathers feared concentrated power. The military was never meant to police American citizens. The Constitution was built on the belief that civilian institutions, not soldiers, should handle domestic disputes. The mere discussion of reversing that principle shakes the foundation of American democracy. But Trump's calculus might be different. He thrives on confrontation. The more outrage his statements create, the more his base rallies behind him. He's turned controversy into currency, using backlash as proof that he's fighting the establishment. So when critics warn that invoking the Insurrection Act would be dangerous, Trump doesn't retreat. He leans in, framing it as another example of the elites trying to stop him from keeping America safe. Behind closed doors, advisors and insiders are reportedly split. Some encourage Trump's tough talk, believing it reinforces his brand as a law and order leader. Others caution that such rhetoric could alienate moderates and provoke unrest. Military officials, both active and retired, are particularly uneasy. They know the weight of that decision. They've seen what happens when soldiers are caught between politics and public duty. Meanwhile, public trust in institutions continues to erode. Polls show that Americans are deeply divided not just by party, but by perception of reality itself. What one side sees as necessary force, the other sees as tyranny. And that's the perfect storm. In a country already stretched thin by polarization, even a small spark could ignite something bigger, something that could make 2020's unrest look like a prelude. Trump's political strategy seems built around that tension. His rallies are designed to feel like movements, not just events. His language taps into a deep sense of frustration, the belief that the system is broken, that the elites don't care, and that only a strong hand can fix it. When he hints at the Insurrection Act, he's not just talking about law and order, he's appealing to emotion. He's telling his followers that he's willing to do what others won't. But the danger lies in normalization. The more this kind of rhetoric becomes part of everyday politics, the easier it becomes to accept military involvement in domestic affairs. And once that line is crossed, there may be no going back. Legal scholars warn that even a single use of the Insurrection Act under vague circumstances could set a precedent future leaders might exploit. At the same time, some conservative voices argue that the left is overreacting. They claim Trump is merely threatening to use all legal tools available to ensure safety and stability. He's not calling for a dictatorship, one commentator said. He's calling for order. That argument resonates with Americans who feel unsafe in their communities or disillusioned with current leadership. Fear is powerful, and Trump knows exactly how to use it. The coming months could determine whether these threats remain words or evolve into action. With major protests already being planned over immigration, economic inequality, and political corruption, the potential for unrest is real. And Trump, a master of timing, could use any such crisis as justification to act. The narrative would be simple: America is out of control, and only decisive action can save it. But there's another possible outcome, one that many quietly hope for. If public pressure, institutional resistance, and cooler heads prevail, the Insurrection Act may remain a historical artifact, a reminder of the fragility of power. It's possible that Trump's hints are just political theater, meant to energize his base rather than set policy. After all, Trump understands media better than anyone. He knows that fear drives views, and views drive influence. Still, even if he never signs that order, the impact of these discussions will linger. They reshape how Americans think about power, leadership, and the limits of the presidency. The idea that as the 2025 election season intensifies, Trump's words will continue to echo through rallies, news cycles, and living rooms across the country. Supporters will cheer his promises of strength. Opponents will warn of creeping authoritarianism. And the rest of America will hold its breath, watching a democracy test its own boundaries once again. In the end, whether the Insurrection Act comes back or not, this moment reveals something profound about the United States. Power, once stretched, rarely snaps back into place. The debate isn't just about Trump. It's about the future of how America governs itself when fear and division dominate the national stage. The next few months may determine whether the country steps back from that edge or crosses into territory it can never fully return from. And as the cameras flash, as the speeches roar, and as the headlines flood our screens, one truth remains unshaken: America stands at a crossroads. The path forward could restore faith in democracy or redefine it forever. And there you have it, the question that could shape America's future. Will Trump truly bring back the Insurrection Act, or is this all part of his political strategy? Whatever happens next, one thing is clear: the storm in U.S. politics is just beginning. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your friends. And, of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss our deep dives into breaking stories just like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay aware, stay smart, and stay tuned.